Welcome to Through a Glass Darkly Radio. You're listening to us on United Public Radio. The intro music was Mark of the Doomslayer by White Bat Audio. All right, welcome back, everyone. Oh, wow. What the fuck? This is the absolute, worst possible fucking... Sorry, this thing's all fucked up tonight. All fucked up. I gotta fit in real time. What's the point of having a background if you can see the fucking green? Hold on. Now I'm all pissed off now. Visual effects. Let's see. Go to your camera settings. Now I'm just gonna have to make everything worse for a little bit. Do you think it would automatically check that I have a green screen? Unfucking real. All right, there you go. Now there's no green. Anyway, sorry. I'm obsessive compulsive sometimes, and that kind of stuff. So I had to clear my cache for something else because Spotify always has a software problem or something, and you have to go through 85 different permutations of shit that is not going to work just to satisfy the technician, just so you could tell their software programmers that their shit's up. So anyway, and it caused a cascade of other stuff. So I'll calm down. And then in the meantime, in the my pseudo rant right there, it's a bunch of stuff just came in. Okay, let's see. All right, how you doing, Sally Fourth Alone? Good to see you. As long as you don't steal your neighbors. Oh boy. All right. All right. So Oracle Verify says, Sean, I kid you not, I played an infrasound on YouTube, and now my laptop speakers sound crackled and distorted. Oh boy. Hopefully it's not my sound. That's true. I do. I got a haircut though, so I don't look like I'm balding anymore. because that's just the way the haircut works. Okay, we can see your background. Yeah, but I had like green, like right in here, and it was really annoying me. Yeah, we could talk about that. That Kerp episode was epic in terms of. By the way, if you're new here because Kurt brought you here, thank you very much. Welcome. I'm probably going to disappoint you tonight because this is the radio show that I jointly own the IP content with a radio station just for this live stream. And I typically pick a topic, have AI generate something based on an idea I have, and I read the AI. If you don't like that, and you just joined and we're excited about the channel, just please drop because I don't want to disappoint you. When I do interviews, it's none of that. Like every other thing I post on here, it's no AI scripts or anything like that. It's just for this one radio show because as everyone who's been following me for a while, I work like 100+ hours a week and I just don't have the time to get everything I need to get done. It's like a hack that I have to use to survive. But that kind of was also, if you think you're subscribed, please double check because YouTube likes to slip that one in and unsubscribe people who've been with this channel for a very long time. They know the deal, but instead of asking for subscribers, I always ask for people to just check. Am I green beard now? Uh-oh. Okay, you sound like you're on your period with me. Wait, what? What? Are they? Are people arguing? Oh my god! Yeah, it was. I had to cut it off because we were at 2 hours. So I'm like, I'm not going to be able to even edit the video because it's going to be too large because it was in 4K. So, yeah, Kurt really did me a solid. That's all you have to. Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. That's totally fair. Maybe it was. Maybe it was intrepid. Maybe it was cognitive warfare. Oh my lord. Oh no, it's not my period of the month. It's just I like to start on time, and for me, on time is 10 minutes before this starts, and I started 2 minutes before. I don't like that. I really don't. And as a result, foo bars happen because of things like that. I also spent half the week. Last week I was in Miami for work stuff, so I'm completely discombobulated because there's just work doesn't get done, right? All the other stuff that I have. Fortunately, I got a lot of it done beforehand. The Kerp episode was one of the things that I knew I had to just get. So that I finished that at 1 a.m. the night before it appeared because I knew I just had to get it out. So. But I'm so glad I did it because there's so many new people here who are into it and all that stuff. Who I really enjoyed that. I had way more fun than I thought I would on that. Yeah, it was pretty fun. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I don't throw chairs anymore. But probably 20 years ago, I may be that guy. But yeah, no chair throwing at all. I was just anyway. I'm all better now. Isn't that what Wilfred Brimley says in The Thing? When the thing, they lock him in that thing, and the thing gets to him, and then he's just like, I'm all better now. Just let me out. Yeah, please do hit the like button. There will definitely be more Kerp stuff. I haven't asked him or anything like that because he just has a standing invite whenever. I'll probably do more of a live thing because editing that was brutal. Just because every time he turned into Jeopardy Merlove or whatever he calls it, I had to edit. I had to time the background and change it so it was black and all this stuff. I didn't have to do that, but I decided to do that because I thought it'd be funny. So, yeah, The Thing is amazing. Yeah. Kerp is amazing. All better now. I'm all better now. So yeah, Miss Tessa Marie saying, yeah, YouTube has a really bad habit of unsubscribing people and or not getting people notifications on videos. It's really bad on David Pilates YouTube channel. Cam Man Missing Project. Okay. Yeah, if you don't like Bigfoot, you might want to like skip out next month because I have 6 of them. I have like 8 interviews, 6 of them are about Bigfoot, and then I have this really like ridiculous promo at the beginning. I've seen more Bigfoot photos too that I can't share with anybody that look real than I ever have in my entire life. Like they look legit real. So wait, that wasn't the real Jeffrey Mishlove? Yes, and I actually have a promo at the beginning of every one of those videos. That is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know. There was just you all wanted to see me interview Bigfoot folks, and by the way, I'm glad I did because I made a lot of new friends. Who at some point I will go out into the wilderness and try to see this stuff. But oh, you wore a Bigfoot? I have one that just says like tax Bigfoot, make him pay on my site if you want to get it. Because I only did one Bigfoot interview before that, and that was with Joshua Cutchin. But that's it. All right. I'm going to get, oh, or not. Yeah, I'm going to get started because I have a lot of stuff to get through. So, one more running around more than Erica Kirk. Yeah. Yeah, it was a long week. Steve, yeah, so Intrepid saying you should interview Steve Isdall. He's got some interesting stuff regarding Bigfooters, the Sabe or people or something. Yeah, his name definitely came up in a lot of the interviews. So visit Mike in Ontario one day. Yeah, that would be interesting. Are we talking about the temple set tonight? No, but I understand the reference, right? Because of Michael Aquino, but it'll be related to like cognitive warfare. Yep, temple set is 100% Aquino. All right, well, we'll get to it. There's a guy in the future forecasting group, the enigmatic Michael. I think I'm going to be able to interview him, but I just need to bug him again and make sure. He's fled BC for a while. Huh. Let's see. What's my opinion about GG33? I have no idea who GG33 is, Justin Albrecht. If you tell me, maybe I'll know who you're, but like, I'm not sure. All right, I'm going to get started on the cognitive warfare stuff because I'll never finish it if I don't start now. So without further ado, yeah, none of the people I interviewed are like Bigfoot hunters, spiritual ascension. They're all like, they've all developed kind of communication with it. I haven't really seen them do Bigfoot stuff, but I don't know. We'll see. Not like anything's happened since last week. Yeah, I mean, I literally have not been. I saw like somebody was shot or something like that. But I mean, I think you all can figure out what I think. I'm not going to go into it. Yeah, so I'm not touching it. Not touching it tonight. You know where I stand. I have like a lot of pent up anger that the left built up over the last 10 years that I'm not going. I shouldn't be laughing. Shouldn't be laughing. Mitch, I'm not confirming or denying. There's a guy in Wyoming that has seen him. I think he showed up on his deer. I have 2 solid pictures that like are either extremely well crafted fakes or like they're real. And I can't share them because I was told not to share them. Let's see. I'm new to the game, fresh, full of anger. Yeah, I don't want to alienate. I don't want to alienate anyone, but people who've been following the channel kind of know, have a hint of my personal story and how I've been negatively impacted by progressives in a way that it's hard for me to empathize at all with them. Like I've lost all empathy. So, and I don't want to alienate anybody because of that. So, you're gonna have to interview that other comedian that Kurt said he. Oh yeah. Yeah, I will follow up. I will follow up. You're talking about Duncan Trussell. Yeah. I've been wanting to interview Duncan Trussell for a very long time. Did we record that in the interview? Was that recorded in the interview I published? Because I didn't. I mean, if he said it while we were recording, there's no reason not to have that in there. But if that's in there, that's. Does anybody remember if that's in there? Oh, you mean Mishlove? I think Kerp should interview Mishlove as Mishlove. So, like we were talking Duncan Trussell specifically. I just want to confirm that because I can. Yeah, I know cognitive warfare. Well, we still have enough time to start. Yeah, the issue with like I've tried to reach out to him. I've reached out to him before, but it's through a management wall, like a talent management wall. So of course it didn't happen because I got no response. So okay, cool. That's good. All right. Yeah, I will follow up with Kerp, but I don't want to be like I don't want to act like a taker. You know what I mean? Because he's been really cool with me. He's been really good. So he's a genuinely good human being. Should try to get Nathan. Yeah, I gotta do some research on Nathan Reynolds. I never watched any of his interviews. Starting me down that rabbit hole. I'm on the fence because it feels LARPy, but could be real. Yeah, there's someone I interview a lot in this channel who's like is a little leery of that guy, so I haven't really looked into him too much. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't. I already have. I have like 2 or 3 videos with Lori, but I'm probably going to interview her again, but that's a different project. Brandon he tried to tell him. Let's see. Control Alt History Guy might be more your speed. We could look. Yeah, finally got traction, and I'm still getting traction. It's still like grinding through. Oh, she does. Oh, that would be a good reason to interview her. Guy's got some of the best info out there. Breaking Bigfoot. Guys, I can't. I got to be careful though, because if I do like, we're gonna do a trial of February. That'll be Sasquatch season. That's what I'm calling it. And if it does well, then it will be every February. We'll do Sasquatch season. Now I might do something else from time to time, but let's see how it does. The only Sasquatch related interview that I've ever done did not do well on this channel. Like it did not perform well. So, and it's not the guy, because the guy interviewed him about other things, and those interviews performed a lot better. So, but Cutchin wasn't an experiencer. So that's the difference. These are all experiencers. So, all right. Now I promise I'm getting started. Okay. All right. Let's go. All right. Cognitive warfare, historical evolution, current strategies, and future implications. In contemporary security discourse, cognitive warfare refers to strategies and operations aimed at influencing or disrupting the cognition of target populations, how people think, perceive reality, and make decisions. Unlike traditional kinetic energy warfare or kinetic warfare, cognitive warfare targets the battlefield of the mind through information, psychology, and emerging technologies rather than physical force. This concept has gained prominence in recent years as state and non-state actors exploit social media, big data, and artificial intelligence to shape public opinion and undermine adversaries' will to resist. Policymakers and scholars note that while the term cognitive warfare is new, the practice itself builds on a long history of propaganda and psychological operations, now supercharged by digital tools. This podcast provides an objective analysis of cognitive warfare's evolution, its current applications, future threats, case studies of major powers, comparative doctrines, and the ethical, legal, and strategic challenges it poses. The goal is to elucidate how warfare in the cognitive domain has emerged as a core element of modern conflict and strategic competition, standing alongside traditional land, sea, air, space, and cyber domains. All right. So there's ancient and early precedents. The roots of cognitive warfare can be traced to ancient strategists like Sun Tzu, who emphasized subduing the enemy without fighting through deception and manipulation of the enemy's perceptions. In various forms, leaders throughout history have used information, psychological tactics such as rumors, pamphleteering, and symbolic displays to erode enemy morale and shape public sentiment in their favor. For example, during the American Civil War, distributed pamphlets and staged letters were used to sow confusion among opposing troops, illustrating early attempts to weaponize information. These early practices laid the conceptual groundwork for what would later be formalized as propaganda and psychological warfare. Modern psychological warfare emerged on a large scale during World War I and especially during World War II, enabled by mass media and the imperatives of total war. Governments created propaganda ministries to influence both enemy and domestic populations, aiming to sustain morale and demoralize the opponent. The Second World War saw extensive use of radio broadcasts, leaflets dropped from the sky, and cinematic newsreels to influence public opinion. For instance, the Allied powers leveraged radio broadcasts like the BBC and Voice of America to counter Nazi propaganda and provide hope to occupied populations, while Nazi Germany's Reich Ministry of Public Enlightenment and Propaganda, led by Joseph Goebbels, notoriously engineered mass persuasion and deception campaigns. These efforts demonstrated the impact of coordinated information operations on wartime cohesion and decision-making. During the ensuing Cold War, psychological operations evolved into a permanent feature of superpower competition. The United States and its allies broadcast programs such as Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty into the Soviet bloc to provide uncensored news and bolster dissident sentiments. Why can't the Russians do that for us today, where they, broadcast uncensored news and just broadcast uncensored news, because our side clearly does not broadcast uncensored news. Conversely, the Soviet KGB conducted active measures, a form of cognitive warfare that included spreading disinformation, forgeries, and conspiracy theories to undermine Western societies and alliances. Classic examples of Cold War cognitive warfare included the war of ideas between communism and liberal democracy, where each side tried to erode the other's ideological legitimacy without direct armed conflict. In summary, by the late 20th century, a repertoire of techniques from black propaganda to covert influence operations had been honed to influence, confuse, or demoralize adversaries below the threshold of open war. After 1990, the rise of the internet and satellite communications transformed the landscape of influence operations. Western militaries in the 1990s began speaking of information warfare and information operations as emerging modes of conflict, anticipating that controlling the flow of information would be as crucial as controlling territory. The 1991 Gulf War, for example, saw the United States drop leaflets and broadcast radio messages urging Iraqi units to surrender, combining high-tech conventional force with psychological operations. In the late 1990s, U.S. doctrine formally incorporated information operations as a joint function, integrating electronic warfare, psychological operations, and computer network operations to achieve informational superiority. Meanwhile, strategists conceptualized net war and cyber warfare, imagining how networked information could be used to disrupt an enemy's decision-making. By the early 2000s, the concept of hybrid warfare emerged, a blend of military and non-military methods, including cyber attacks, economic pressure, and information campaigns to achieve strategic goals. Russia's operations in Ukraine from 2014 onward are often cited as paradigmatic cases of this hybrid strategy. Moscow combined the use of proxy forces and covert military units with intense disinformation campaigns to influence Ukrainian and international perceptions, demonstrating how modern cognitive warfare and armed action could be synchronized. In short, the historical trajectory shows continuity in the ambition to shape perceptions and beliefs for strategic ends, even as each technological era, from print to radio to the internet, expanded the reach and speed of influence operations. Today's notion of cognitive warfare represents the latest phase in this evolution, distinguished by the unprecedented fusion of digital platforms, data analytics, and AI-driven personalization to target human cognition at scale. In recent years, military theorists and defense organizations have explicitly reframed these legacy concepts, propaganda, psyops, information warfare, under the banner of cognitive warfare to emphasize the focus on affecting the mind. NATO's Allied Command Transformation in 2021, for example, described cognitive warfare as targeting the human cognitive processes, exploiting biases and perceptions to weaken societies from within. This shift in terminology reflects both continuity and change. It underscores continuity in that states have long sought to shape, disrupt, or exploit cognitive processes in pursuit of strategic advantages. At the same time, it highlights what is new, the rupture caused by digital technology and social media, which allow highly personalized, real-time manipulation of information on a far broader scale than traditional propaganda. In effect, cognitive warfare is viewed as the convergence of traditional psychological operations with cutting-edge tools like big data analytics, algorithmic targeting, and AI, enabling influence campaigns with unprecedented precision and intensity. All right, so let's talk a little bit about current applications of cognitive warfare tactics and technologies. Modern cognitive warfare takes many forms. Key current applications include cyber-enabled influence operations, large-scale disinformation campaigns, AI-driven psychological profiling to tailor messages, and manipulation of social media ecosystems. These often overlap and reinforce each other. For instance, cyber operations might be used to steal data that is then targeted for targeted disinformation on social platforms. Before we examine each category of tactics and technologies being used today, below, we're going to examine each major category of tactics and technologies being used today in cognitive warfare. Okay. Cyber operations as vectors for cognitive attacks. Cyber operations provide both an attack surface and a delivery mechanism for cognitive warfare. While cyber warfare traditionally encompasses hacking and technical disruption, in cognitive warfare, the emphasis is on using cyber means to influence minds. State-sponsored hackers often steal sensitive information and strategically leak it to manipulate public opinion or embarrass targeted governments. For example, Russian cyber units have repeatedly hacked into political organizations and then released curated troves of emails or documents as part of a broader influence campaign. A notorious case was the 2016 U.S. presidential election interference. Russian hackers breached email servers and leaked politically damaging material via platforms like WikiLeaks, which was timed to exacerbate divisions and sway voters' opinions. Importantly, the cyber and information vectors are intertwined. Stolen data is weaponized in information operations designed to alter how a population thinks about a candidate or issue. Beyond hack and leak operations, cyber tools are used to seed false information. This can include hijacking legitimate news websites or social media accounts to post fabricated content, defacing websites with psychological messaging, or using malware to insert propaganda into adversaries' information networks. Cyber operations can also directly target individuals' devices and social feeds, as occurred in various Russian and Chinese operations where dissidents for specific demographic groups were inundated with tailored propaganda through compromised accounts and algorithms. In essence, cyberspace acts as a force multiplier for cognitive warfare. It allows adversaries to breach the defenses of traditional media gatekeepers and inject influence efforts straight into the digital bloodstream of societies. Military analysts note that while Western countries have strong cyber defense programs to protect critical networks, they have been comparatively less prepared for the cognitive effects delivered via cyber means, such as subtle manipulation of data or the planting of doubt about the integrity of information systems. This has prompted calls to treat certain cyber intrusions not just as espionage or sabotage, but as psychological attacks aimed at eroding trust. For instance, hacking election reporting systems, not to change votes, but to cast doubt on the outcome, is a cognitive attack on democracy. As cognitive warfare integrates with cyber, the line between technical and psychological aggression blurs. A cyber operation's ultimate objective may be not a kinetic effect, but a cognitive effect. So, for instance, to change thoughts and behavior by manipulating information. Then you have disinformation campaigns and propaganda, like the mainstream news media. This is basically a long-standing propaganda campaign. The strategic dissemination of disinformation. False or misleading information spread deliberately is a cornerstone of contemporary cognitive warfare. By flooding the information space with narratives that distort reality, adversaries seek to confuse the target audience, amplify divisions, and ultimately influence decision-making in their favor. Both state and non-state actors engage in disinformation campaigns on a daily basis. Russia has become infamous for its global disinformation operations, from denying involvement in events such as issuing multiple contradictory explanations for the downing of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 in 2014, to running troll farms that inject polarizing content into U.S. and European social media discussions. A prominent example is Russia's interference in the 2016 U.S. election, where operations connected to the Kremlin-controlled Internet Research Agency created thousands of fake social media personas to spread incendiary memes and false news stories aiming to depress voter turnout and erode faith in democratic institutions. In Europe, Russian disinformation escalated around its 2022 invasion of Ukraine. The Kremlin pushed false narratives, for instance, falsely portraying the Ukrainian government as neo-Nazi. Wait, but that's not false. I mean, like, that's not false at all. Like, if you know anything about your like Ukrainian history, it is absolutely neo-Nazi. Like, I mean, like, you can tell AI is starting to get misinformation too. Anyway, I'm just saying. Okay, so to justify, yeah, they're Banderites. Anybody who knows of like Stephen, is either Stephen or Stefan Banderi or Bandaria or something like that. They're called Banderites. Like 100%, like Ukrainian government as a neo-Nazi element. It's not the entire government, but okay. Just because the left decides that, you know, like everything we support is anti-fascist. Everything you support is Nazi. Well, now it turns out you supported something that was an explicit Nazi regime or had elements of. Anyway, sorry, I digressed. Okay, to justify the war and use state media outlets like RT and Sputnik to manipulate international opinion. The European Union responded with unprecedented measures, including sanctioning those media outlets and publicly debunking Russian falsehoods, illustrating and truths. Let's add that there, just to be accurate, illustrating how seriously disinformation is now viewed as a security threat. Just like it's shaping the narrative that I had AI produce here from OpenAI. So you're seeing it in real time. And that's what my role is, to correct it when some of the bullshit slips into the stuff that I put out, which you just saw. So China, too, conducts disinformation operations, albeit often with a different style. And so do Western democracies, by the way. Chinese tactics tend to mix positive propaganda about China's achievements with subtle undermining of adversary narratives. For instance, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Chinese state media and diplomats actively spread conspiracy theories that the virus originated in a new U.S. lab. It did, in the University of North Carolina. It did. It also, a similar virus also originated in the Wuhan, Institute of Virology for Novel Coronavirus Research, and it was funded by the NIH and the and USAID. Like, that's a fact. then who funded EcoHealth and then funded, the U.S. funded the gain of function research that resulted in the coronavirus. It's a fact now. So again, more disinformation from OpenAI. So deflecting blame and sowing confusion internationally. They also push disinformation to downplay human rights abuses such as false claims that reports of Uyghur detention camps are Western fabrications. Are they, though? I don't know the answer to that. And I certainly don't I don't think the Chinese are treating them well, but I also don't think what the West is putting out is going to be 100% correct, because everything else they've told us has been a lie. So why wouldn't that be? So disinformation is not limited to great powers. Extremist groups in smaller states also leverage it. The Islamic State, ISIS, for example, mastered online propaganda by releasing expertly edited videos filled with disinformation about its strength and the weaknesses of its enemies, recruiting followers worldwide through a warped narrative. What makes disinformation in the digital age especially potent is the speed and scale at which falsehoods can spread. Oh, by the way, General Petraeus appeared with a former leader of ISIS, and shook his hand, and too old, blah blah blah. So maybe they aren't so bad, I guess, right, General Petraeus. So information ecosystems in many democracies are described as being in a state of persistent information disorder. Cognitive warfare takes advantage of this disorder by inundating or audiences with conflicting reports, memes, and doctored evidence. Adversaries aim to undermine the public's ability to discern truth, leading to cognitive fatigue or cynicism where people no longer trust any information source. This erosion of trust is a desired outcome of cognitive warfare. A populace that cannot distinguish truth from falsehood is less able to resist manipulation and more prone to internal discord. Current disinformation campaigns are often AI enhanced, using bots to amplify messages and micro-targeted ads to reach susceptible individuals. Discuss more below. Okay, so the ethical implications of such large-scale deception are severe, as they deliberately exploit cognitive biases and emotions like fear or anger to achieve political ends, effectively weaponizing human psychology. Okay. Actually, can you just all hope, or just all give me a second? What the hell is this thing? All right, just give me a second. One quick second. Okay, all better now. Okay, so AI, psychological profiling, and micro-targeting. Here's where we're going to get to some of the, let's call it, scarier stuff. All right. So advances in artificial intelligence and data analytics have enabled a new level of psychological profiling and influence operations. By harvesting vast amounts of personal data from social media behavior, search histories, and consumer records, etc., actors in the cognitive warfare arena can algorithmically predict individual preferences, fears, and susceptibilities. This information is then used to micro-target tailored messages designed to resonate with or manipulate specific audiences. One widely cited example of this approach was the now defunct British firm Cambridge Analytica, which in 2016 mined Facebook data on millions of Americans to build psychographic profiles and purportedly tailor political advertisements to persuadable voters. While Cambridge Analytica was a private company, similar techniques are actively pursued by state actors and their proxies. Authoritarian governments in particular having weaponized big data for population influence. China, for example, has combined its extensive domestic surveillance apparatus with AI analysis to not only monitor its citizens, but also shape their behavior, a phenomenon some analysts dub algorithmic governance. Externally, Chinese influence operations make use of big data targeting on platforms like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, even though these are banned domestically, to identify foreign users receptive to pro-China narratives and deliver customized content to them. In Taiwan's 2018 local elections, evidence emerged that Chinese agencies leveraged Facebook's ad tools to send them tailored disinformation to Taiwanese users segmented by region and political leaning. Similarly, Russia's online influence campaigns are known to segment audiences, for instance, U.S. veterans or particular ethnic communities in the Baltic states. and deliver precisely honed propaganda to each. This precision targeting is guided by AI models that test countless message variations and optimize for engagement, essentially algorithmic amplification of propaganda. Studies by Rand and others have termed this phenomenon virtual societal warfare. Hold on, everybody. Jesus fucking Christ. Hold on. All right, sorry about that. Unreal. Yeah, this stupid camera turned back on AI tracking, which, as you can imagine, is a disaster. All right. Where the hell was I? Okay. Studies by Rand and others have termed this phenomenon virtual societal warfare, wherein AI and algorithms amplify social fissures by continuously feeding individuals content that confirms their biases or exacerbates grievances. The danger of AI-driven profiling is that it exploits the echo chamber effect. Once an individual shows a propensity for certain conspiratorial or extremist content, algorithms can reinforce that by pushing more of the same, leading to radicalization or extreme views that adversaries can later tap into. Moreover, AI can not only target existing beliefs, but to potentially shape how people think. Sophisticated psychological profiling might identify, for example, that a certain segment of the population values security over freedom. A cognitive attack could then frame a disinformation narrative in terms of security threats to sway that group's opinion on policy X. In essence, AI enables a form of personalized psychological warfare. Each person can be targeted with a specific message most likely to influence them, as inferred by machines analyzing their data. Such micro-targeting was never possible in the era of one-size-fits-all propaganda posters or broad radio broadcasts. Now it can occur on the smartphone in one's pocket, largely unseen by others. Western democracies have begun grappling with how to counter this challenge through stricter data quality. Yeah. Western democracies have begun grappling with how to counter this challenge through rigorous censorship programs and imprisonment of citizens, like Britain. But AI tells us through stricter data privacy laws, transparency in political ads, etc. No. Canceling elections, like in the UK, gerrymandering their districts, like in California. So incompetence can thrive. Anyway, but these measures often lag behind the techniques being employed. Ultimately, AI-driven cognitive warfare threatens to erode the notion of a shared reality, as each individual is enveloped in a tailor-made informational environment shaped by unseen hands. Then we have social media manipulation and online influence. Social media platforms are the central battleground of today's cognitive warfare. Platforms like Facebook, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok serve billions of users and have become primary sources of news and influence, especially for younger demographics. Adversaries exploit these platforms, design the ease of creating anonymous accounts, the algorithmic promotion of viral content, and the social networks of trust to conduct influence operations at scale. A hallmark of social media manipulation is the use of bots and troll accounts. Bots are automated profiles that can flood networks with a particular message or hashtag, creating the illusion of grassroots popularity, a tactic known as astroturfing. We've seen this all the time in this exact field. Tons of astroturfing. Troll accounts are fake personas, sometimes operated by actual human teams, sometimes semi-automated, that engage in debates, harass targeted users, or push propaganda in comment threads. Russia's Internet Research Agency employed legions of such trolls and bots masquerading as Americans on Facebook and Twitter to pit groups against each other on divisive issues like race relations, gun control, or immigration. By engineering online arguments in extremist communities, they sought to heighten polarization within the U.S. Social media manipulation also involves strategic amplification of narratives. For instance, during conflicts or crises, an actor might attempt to make certain misleading hashtags trend, thus drawing more organic users into seeing and sharing the content. In the 2022 Ukraine war, analysts observed coordinated networks of Twitter accounts, some later traced to Russian operatives, pushing to hashtags like I stand with Russia, or false claims about Ukraine aggression, trying to sway global sentiment. Likewise, Beijing has stepped up its use of Western social media to counter criticism of China. Spamiflage is the nickname researchers have given a large network of pro-China bot accounts that post and amplify content denigrating China's adversaries like the U.S. or Taiwanese leaders while praising Chinese government initiatives. These fake accounts often use AI-generated profile pictures and stolen identities to appear real, an illustration of how generative AI aids social media influence operations. Another facet is the exploitation of platform algorithms. By understanding and gaming the recommendation systems through coordinated likes, shares, and comments, adversaries can boost the visibility of their desired content. A dramatic example occurred in 2023 when a deep fake video was circulated in Slovakia just before an election, falsely depicting a pro-Western politician in a compromising conversation. Coordinated activity made the clip go viral, and although debunked, it reportedly influenced public opinion and benefited a more pro-Russia party in the election. This shows how social media manipulation can have direct political outcomes, undermining electoral integrity. Furthermore, platforms like YouTube can be used to funnel viewers from innocuous content to radicalizing content via algorithmic suggestions, a phenomenon exploited by extremist groups and hostile states alike. In sum, social media provides the means to reach vast audiences quickly and to do so under a veneer of authenticity. People often trust content shared by their friends or those who seem like peers. Cognitive warfare campaigns thus devote great effort to blending in on these platforms, using memes, pop culture references, or emotional appeals that resonate. The immediacy and interactivity of social media also allows real-time adaptation. Propagandists can gauge what messages are catching on and adjust accordingly, creating a feedback loop for optimizing influence. The challenge for defenders is significant. Open social networks are inherently difficult to police without infringing on free expression, and the malign actors benefit from anonymity and reach. Many democracies have started working with tech companies to root out bot networks and label state-affiliated media contents, but the sheer scale makes complete control impossible. As one expert put it, key competitors from autocratic states have weaponized social media and are using infinite possibilities for digital distortion to attack open societies. The effects of such manipulation are not only misleading specific targets, but also a broader decoy of public trust in information itself, which is perhaps the ultimate objective of cognitive warfare. All right. So now let's talk about future threats and emerging technologies in cognitive warfare. As technology evolves, so too do the tools and threats in the cognitive warfare arena. Looking ahead, several emerging technologies is likely game changers. Deep fakes and synthetic media, neurotechnology and brain-centric weapons, and autonomous systems driven by AI that can conduct influence operations at scale. These not only enhance existing tactics, but also introduce qualitatively new challenges. Below, we explore each and how they might shape the future cognitive battle space. So deep fakes and synthetic media. Advancements in AI have enabled the creation of highly realistic deepfakes, audio or video content fabricated to convincingly show people saying or doing things that never happened. Deepfakes represent a potent future and increasingly present weapon of cognitive warfare because they can directly target the credibility of information and the trust in leaders or media. A well-crafted deepfake can be used to create a false narrative, that viewers might find indistinguishable from reality. One alarming example occurred in the 2023 Slovak parliamentary elections, when a deepfake audio recording surfaced just days before the vote, purporting to capture an opposition leader discussing election fraud. The clip, released during a legally mandated pre-election silence period, went viral and stirred controversy. Analysts later attributed it to a likely disinformation operation aimed at swaying the close election. Such incidents preview how deepfakes could become standard tools to sabotage political processes. Imagine a fake video of a candidate accepting a bribe or a government official declaring a false emergency, released at a critical moment. In military context, deepfakes could be employed to issue false orders. So, for instance, a fake video of a general telling troops to surrender, or to fabricate atrocity footage that inflames conflict. During Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a rudimentary deepfake of President Zelensky appeared online in which he seemed to tell Ukrainian soldiers to lay down arms, while quickly debunked due to its low quality. It signaled the kind of psychological ploy we may see more of as the tech improves. The threat of synthetic media extends beyond just fake faces or voices. AI can generate entirely fictional news anchors or personas who deliver propaganda messages in a credible format. In 2022, pro-Chinese influence operations include video clips of AI-generated anchors, fictitious people with realistic appearances and voices, reading scripted statements praising Beijing's policies. Viewers who encounter these on social media may not immediately realize they are computer-generated, making the message delivery more insidious. Moreover, even when deepfakes are exposed, they can have a corrosive effect known as the liar's dividend. The mere existence of deepfake technology allows malevolent actors to dismiss real footage as fake. For example, an autocrat caught on authentic leaked video can claim it's a deepfake, and many might believe it, since the technology is very present, seeds doubt about all visual evidence. Thus, deepfakes threaten to undermine trust in institutions and the evidentiary basis of public discourse. From a cognitive warfare perspective, this is gold. If people cannot trust their ears or eyes, the information space becomes radically malleable. Democracies are scrambling to respond. Researchers are developing deepfake detection algorithms, often AI competing against AI, and some jurisdictions are exploring legal bans or labels for deepfakes intended to deceive. However, the cat and mouse game is intense, as generative algorithms, GANs, or generative adversarial networks, improve continuously. The likely near future will see AI-generated propaganda at scale. Armies of bots, each with a unique AI-generated profile, picture, and even video avatars flooding platforms with coordinated messaging. We might also see hyper-personalized deepfakes, for instance, fake audio messages that mimic the voice of someone's friend or family member, delivering tailored disinformation to that person. For instance, a fake voicemail from a friend urging them to join a protest or support a radical cause. Such capabilities would represent the fusion of AI-driven profiling and synthetic media, weaponizing trust between individuals. In summary, deepfakes and synthetic media are poised to become a critical front in cognitive warfare. They not only provide new means to deceive, but their very existence amplifies confusion and distrust, conditions adversaries will exploit. Countering this will require technological solutions, public awareness, and possibly new legal norms. For example, treating malicious deepfakes as a form of prohibited perfidy or information warfare under international law. The race between deepfake creation and detection is on, and its outcome will heavily influence the cognitive security of societies. Oh boy, neurotechnology and the battle for Britain. Perhaps the most startling frontier of cognitive warfare involves neurotechnology, tools that can monitor or even influence brain activity. Jesus Christ. And the integration of neuroscience into military applications. As one NATO-affiliated expert started put it, cognitive warfare ultimately could become a battle for the brain in a literal sense. Emerging neurotechnologies include brain-computer interfaces, neuroimaging techniques, neurostimulators, and nootropic drugs. Militaries are actively researching how these might enhance their own personnel's cognitive performance and resilience, as well as how they can be used against adversaries. For example, China has publicized efforts to use neurotechnology for training smarter soldiers. PLA researchers envision using real-time neurofeedback and electromagnetic stimulation to improve soldiers' learning and decision-making, effectively reshaping the brain to boost cognitive combat performance. Such enhancements, if realized, would give a force an edge in information processing and stress tolerance. On the flip side, there is concern that similar methods could be used offensively, sometimes referred to as neuroweapons. These could range from non-lethal bioagents that alter neurochemistry, for instance, an aerosolized drug that induces confusion or calm, to devices that emit frequencies disrupting neural activities, for instance, ultrasonic or microwave weapons that cause disorientation. While this may sound like science fiction, rudimentary versions have already been alleged. U.S. personnel in recent years reported mysterious symptoms, the so-called Havana syndrome, speculated to be from directed energy devices affecting neurofunctioning. Though unproven, the case raised awareness that adversaries might target the brain and central nervous system of individuals for strategic effect. At a conceptual level, weaponized neuroscience blurs the line between physical and cognitive domains. If an electromagnetic pulse can impair a pilot's ability to think clearly, is it an attack on the mind or simply electronic warfare? The U.S. and its allies are sufficiently concerned that discussions of cognitive security now encompass protecting troops from neurological interference. Ethically and legally, neurotechnologies pose tough questions. International humanitarian law forbids chemical and biological weapons that cause superfluous injury. Would a bioweapon that only temporarily altered mood or cognition be considered humane since it's non-lethal, or a violation due to its indiscriminate mental harm? There have been calls to update arms control treaties to address potential neuroweapons. For instance, adding certain neuroactive agents to the Chemical Weapons Convention. Another area of focus is brain-to-computer interface vulnerabilities. As BCIs begin to be used, for example, to allow pilots to control systems by thought or to monitor soldiers' cognitive states, they could be hacked or jammed, turning a potential enhancement into a liability. A future adversary might deploy malware that interferes with the commander's decision support, BCI, literally injecting false signals into their perception. This would be a very direct form of cognitive attack. At present, most of these scenarios remain speculative, but they are actively being exploited in defense research. NATO and other bodies have convened workshops on the weaponization of cognitive neuroscience, examining how converging fields like nanotechnology, biotech, and AI, along with neuroscience, could open new attack surfaces on the human mind. The eventual development of artificial general intelligence, AGI, is even hypothesized as a perfect storm for cognitive warfare. An AGI could theoretically analyze human cognitive vulnerabilities and deploy tailored influence or neurological attacks at scale and efficiency or efficacy far beyond human strategists. In preparation, some suggest establishing neurological defense measures and ethical frameworks now. This might include training military personnel to recognize and cope with psychological manipulation or even resilience to cognitive attacks as part of combat readiness. It also involves grappling with the moral line. Enhancing soldiers' cognition blurs into altering who they are, raising issues of consent and long-term effects, and defending against cognitive attacks could lead militaries to consider preemptive measures that themselves verge on manipulation. For instance, inoculating friendly populations with certain errors or cognitive conditioning. In summary, neurotechnology is to add a profound new dimension to cognitive warfare, one where the targets are the neural pathways of decision-making and the tools reach inside the skull. This amplifies the stakes of cognitive warfare, making it not just a battle about information and perception, but potentially a battle within the biological processes of the brain. Addressing this frontier will require international dialogue on neuroscience, ethics, and possibly new norms to prevent an arms race in cognitive manipulation techniques. All right, now we have autonomous systems and AI agents and influence operations. The future will also see greater autonomy in how cognitive campaigns are executed. Autonomous systems driven by advanced AI could conduct large-scale influence operations with minimal human oversight, reacting and adapting faster than any human-operated effort. We already have early examples: social media bots that operate continuously without human controllers, or algorithms that generate thousands of customized propaganda messages per second. Looking ahead, imagine an AI system that can ingest real-time data from a target society, news, trends, social media sentiment, economic indicators, and then autonomously craft and disseminate influence content optimized to achieve certain effects. For example, to incite panic or to calm tensions, depending on the actor's goals. Such an AI cognitive warfare agent might determine, for instance, that a certain demographic in the adversary country is angry about unemployment, and then generate tailored disinformation linking that issue to government incompetence or corruption, amplified through fake personas, all without direct instruction on each message. The emergence of the large language models like GPT-4 has significant implications here. An LLM can generate human-like text on any topic, potentially producing convincing propaganda, complete with fake citations or impersonation of credible voices. Adversaries could deploy swarms of LLM-powered chatbots onto social networks or messaging apps, engaging individuals in one-on-one conversations to subtly influence their views, something far more persuasive than generic broadcast propaganda. These bots could masquerade as local people, gradually nudging real humans toward radicalization or distrust in institutions. Because an AI can handle millions of such interactions simultaneously, it vastly scales the reach of cognitive influence. Moreover, AI can be used to identify the most effective memes or narratives by stimulating how content might spread, which is so-called predictive propaganda. We may also see integration of autonomous cognitive warfare with physical platforms. For example, an autonomous drone that hacks into local broadcasting stations in a conflict zone and transmits false emergency messages, or drops USB drives loaded with disinformation into enemy territory. Autonomous cyber agents might influence online forums and dynamically steer discussions in certain directions without needing continuously human troll farm labor. The concept of machine speed warfare, where decisions and actions occur in milliseconds, could extend to the information domain. AIs might detect emerging sentiments or unrest earlier than humans and deploy counter-messaging or further agitation at a pace that overwhelms human responders. For defenders, having human analysts in the loop may prove too slow. They need to counter with their own AI that flags and counters malign narratives in real time. Another aspect is the use of robotics and autonomous propaganda delivery systems. Oh my God. Imagine personalized advertising displays or household smart devices hacked by AI to deliver targeted influence messages. For instance, a voice assistant that suddenly gives propaganda statements. Autonomous systems can also generate fake but superficially credible content en masse, not just deep fake videos, but entire fake news websites, including AI-written articles, fake comments, and even AI-generated experts to quote. As technology progresses, it could become nearly impossible for the average person to distinguish authentic information from AI-fabricated content designed expressly to manipulate. This flood of high-quality fake content would achieve a form of cognitive denial of service attack, where the informational environment is so saturated with disinformation that rational decision-making becomes extremely difficult. The introduction of autonomy also raises accountability issues. If an AI agent conducts a disinformation campaign that, say, incites violence, who is legally or morally responsible? The state that deployed the AI, the programmers, or the AI itself? International law is unprepared for autonomous propaganda agents, just as it grapples with autonomous weapons. There have been proposals to require AI-generated content to be watermarked or identified, but enforcing that globally is daunting. Strategically, autonomous cognitive warfare systems could further lower the cost and risk for aggressors. The state could unleash influence AIs to destabilize a competitor without direct attribution, claiming any chaos was organic or the fault of uncontrolled algorithms. This complicates deterrence. How would you deter an adversary from actions they can plausibly deny by blaming an AI mishap? All these possibilities point to a future where cognitive warfare might be conducted at a tempo and scale beyond human capacities, necessitating a parallel development of autonomous defenses, AI to filter, counteract disinformation, AI to simulate adversary influence tactics and preempt them, etc. The interplay of opposing autonomous influence systems could define the cognitive battles of tomorrow, much as opposing cyber defenses and offenses do today. Ensuring such battles do not spiral out of control will be a critical challenge for the international community, calling for new frameworks on AI and information operations. All right. Now we're going to go into some case studies. All right, so case studies, cognitive warfare by the United States, Russia, and China. The U.S., hopefully that case will be like how it used cognitive warfare against its own people, like frequently. But I doubt it will. Something tells me it won't. Major powers have been both drivers and targets of cognitive warfare. The United States, Russia, and China each have distinctive approaches to developing and employing cognitive warfare capabilities, shaped by their political systems, strategic cultures, and objectives. The following case studies illustrate how these states leverage cognitive warfare tools in their ongoing strategic competition, as well as notable operations attributed to each. All right, so the United States, doctrine and approach. The United States has a long history of psychological operations, PSYOP, and information campaigns, but until recently, it did not explicitly frame these as cognitive warfare. U.S. military doctrine traditionally uses terms like information operations, or IO, military information support operations, or MISO, which is the modern term for PSYOP, strategic communications, and cyber-enabled influence to address aspects of influencing adversary decision-making. These efforts have generally treated supporting operations in kinetic military action rather than a standalone form of warfare. However, the U.S. is now acknowledging the cognitive domain as a battleground in its own right, prompted by adversaries' activities. In 2023, NATO's emphasis on cognitive warfare and China's advances spurred the U.S. Congress to call for action. The National Defense Authorization Act for 2026 directs the Pentagon to formally define cognitive warfare, integrate it with existing doctrine, assign organizational responsibility, and assess new capabilities like narrative intelligence. This reflects a sea change in thinking, essentially compelling the Department of Defense to treat influence and perception as core to warfighting. U.S. officials realize that American adversaries already treat the cognitive domain as a core element of deterrence and conflict, and that the U.S. must do the same. Currently, U.S. cognitive warfare capabilities are fragmented across agencies. The Department of Defense has units such as the U.S. Army's 1st Special Forces Command, which houses psychological operations groups. So, for instance, the 4th PSYOP group, and each military branch has some information warfare or influence elements. For example, the U.S. Navy's Information Warfare Community and the Air Force's Information Operations Squadrons. I'm looking at you, England. U.S. Special Operations Command, U.S. SOCOM, is a hub for influence expertise due to its irregular warfare focus. U.S. Cyber Command, or U.S. Cybercom, tackles the digital terrain and has been involved in countering ISIS online and disrupting foreign disinformation networks. The State Department leads overt diplomatic messaging and runs the Global Engagement Center, an interagency unit charged with countering foreign propaganda and disinformation. Notably, GEC has exposed Russian and Chinese disinformation campaigns publicly. The intelligence community, especially CIA and NSA, monitors adversary influence operations, and historically, the CIA has engaged in covert influence efforts abroad. So, for instance, support for pro-democracy media in the Cold War. Yet, despite these pieces, a cohesive approach was lacking. As one analysis noted, what has been missing is integration and clear responsibility on cognitive warfare in the U.S. The NDAA tasking aims to create unity of effort. One proposal on the table is to stand up a dedicated cognitive warfare or information operations command to centralize planning and execution, potentially akin to how Cyber Command unified cyber efforts. In terms of technology, the U.S. has substantial private sector and academic expertise in AI, social media analytics, and behavioral science that could be harnessed. These are research initiatives under DARPA and service labs focused on cognitive security. For instance, DARPA's Semantic Forensics, or Semaphore, program works on deepfake detection, and IARPA, which is intelligence research, has looked at psychological influence modeling. The U.S. also benefits from robust media and tech companies that can be partners in resilience. So, for instance, collaborations with Facebook and Twitter to take down fake accounts and to censor American citizens. I just added that myself. However, leveraging these strengths is complicated by legal and ethical constraints, as discussed later. No shit. The U.S. tends to emphasize defensive and normative actions in cognitive warfare given its democratic values. For instance, during the campaign against ISIS 2014 to 2019, the U.S. combined airstrikes with an online counter-propaganda campaign. A special unit called Joint Task Force Ares under Cyber Command worked to disrupt ISIS online recruiting by hacking accounts and injecting discrediting information, while the State Department's Think Again, Turn Away initiative tried to engage extremists on social media to challenge their narratives. Results were mixed, but these efforts acknowledged that kinetic victories also were insufficient without countering the ideology, a cognitive fight. Another domain has been Russian election interference. In 2018 and 2020, U.S. Cyber Command reportedly conducted operations to take offline the Internet Research Agency's troll farm and other Russian disinformation infrastructure during critical pre-election periods, essentially hacking the hackers as a form of cognitive defense. This approach was nicknamed Defend Forward. On the offensive side, historical cases exist, such as Operation Iraqi Freedom, where U.S. PSYOPs units famously used techniques like broadcasting messages to Iraqi troops urging surrender or leveraging cultural themes, e.g., distributing playing cards with most wanted regime figures to incentivize tips from the public, implicitly influencing perceptions of coalition. By the way, that I need to stop. I need to stop there for a second because I want to show you all something while I can. Hold on. That reminded me. Stand by. Okay. Real world example. You can't see it because of you can't see all of it because of the green screen stuff, because there's some, like, I guess a greenish color, but this is from back in the day. This is from 2003, circa 2000. Well, circa 2003. This is the deck of cards they're talking about. So, still have it. Still have it from back in the day. All right, let me get back to. Yeah, I have the whole pack. The whole pack. Anyway. A little drink of my Dunkin'. All right, where were we? All right, so yeah, so you distributing literally that pack of playing cards with most wanted regime figures to incentivize tips from the public, implicitly influencing perceptions of coalition omniscience. During the Cold War, the CIA's influence campaigns, like secretly funding cultural organizations, books, and media to promote liberal democratic ideas. And by the way, you could, if you were in the military at that time, you could get that pack for $3.99 at your local PX, which is exactly what I did. It was designed by the Liberty Playing Card Company in Arlington, Texas. So, and apparently they're plastic coated. Whatever that. Well, I mean, we know what that means. Okay. All right. So during the Cold War, the CIA's influence campaigns, like secretly funding cultural organizations, books, and media to promote liberal democratic ideas in Soviet influence areas, can be seen as precursors to cognitive warfare, although today such activities would be under greater scrutiny. The U.S. also engages in public exposure of adversary misdeeds as a cognitive strategy. For instance, in 2022 to 2023, as Russia amassed forces and then invaded Ukraine, U.S. intelligence unusually declassified and publicized information about Russian plans and false flag plots ahead of time. This pre-bunking strategy sought to dominate the narrative and rob Russia of the chance to use disinformation to justify its actions. By getting the truth out early, the U.S. helped galvanize Allied support, a case where information efforts likely blunted the impact of Russian cognitive operations. America's open society and legal framework imposes limits on cognitive warfare approaches. Domestically, laws like the Smith-Mundt Act, amended in 2013, but still barring certain domestic propaganda as a general aversion to government manipulation of U.S. audiences, constrain operations. They don't constrain them enough, apparently. The U.S. military's information operations doctrine explicitly forbids targeting American citizens or news organizations. Really? Then I guess that means the United States government broke the law. Like, it continues to break the law constantly. These norms differentiate the U.S. from authoritarian rivals. No, they don't. They really don't. Like, you could say the rules do, but we are no different than Russia or China when it comes to this. Maybe we're not as bad as the U.K., but we're up there. These norms are supposed to differentiate the U.S. from authoritarian rivals who freely blur foreign and domestic influence and often target their own populations to maintain control. Thus, the U.S. tends to frame cognitive warfare in terms of strengthening truthful narratives and resilience, positive framing rather than deception. Nonetheless, the strategic competition with China and Russia heats up. There are voices urging the U.S. to go on the offensive in the information domain. For example, some experts argue for leveraging America's technological edge to achieve cognitive superiority, not to brainwash others, but to outsmart and outcommunicate adversaries. This includes investing in things like AI for faster decision-making and influence, which is an AI-supported command nodes that can react to cognitive threats in real time, and narrative intelligence capabilities to anticipate and counter adversary propaganda. The U.S. has an inherent advantage in global narrative influence given the prevalence of English language media in Hollywood, but it also faces a credibility challenge. No shit. Misinformation at home and political polarization can weaken its message abroad. In sum, the U.S. case shows a liberal democracy grappling with the need to fight and win in the cognitive domain without undermining the very values, truth, openness it seeks to defend. It is moving from a reactive posture, countering others' influence, to a more proactive and structured approach, informed by allies like NATO's framework. The success of this shift will depend on overcoming bureaucratic silos and investing significantly in cognitive warfare capabilities on par with more traditional military assets. All right. Now let's go to Russia. And Russia ain't going to be good either, right? But at least we're going to get the propaganda. We're going to get some propaganda here so I can ensure it will be negative. All right. Russia views information conflict as a continuous and holistic endeavor rooted in the Soviet tradition of political warfare. In Russian military doctrine and strategy, the concept of information confrontation, let's see if I can pronounce it in Russian, Informatsionnye protivoborstvo. I'm not going to try that again. Encapsulates their approach. This concept, officially reflected in documents like the 2014 Military Doctrine and 2016 Information Security Doctrine, treats the information sphere as an arena for constant struggle in peacetime, crisis, and war alike. Unlike the Western notion, which might distinguish information operations as discrete activities, Russia's view is that information warfare is always being waged against both external and internal threats. The goal is to protect Russia's own information space, censoring undesirable information, promoting patriotic narratives, while degrading and penetrating the adversary's information space. Frequently cited expression of Russian thinking is the so-called Gerasimov doctrine, named after General Valery Gerasimov, who was a former chief of staff. In a 2013 article, Gerasimov noted that non-military means, information and psychological warfare, can exceed the power of conventional weapons, and he highlighted a roughly 4-to-1 ratio of non-military to military measures in achieving strategic ends. While Western analysts likely overinterpreted this as a formal doctrine, it does capture a reality. Russian strategy heavily emphasizes subversion, propaganda, and cyber disruption to shape the battlefield before and during armed conflict. The Russian concept of reflexive control is another key piece developed by Soviet theorists. Reflexive control is the practice of conveying selectively crafted information to an opponent to induce them to make decisions favorable to Russia's goals, essentially controlling the adversary's decision calculus. It's cognitive warfare avant la lettre. I don't speak French. Using the adversary's own mind as the weapon against them. Modern Russian military writings often discuss achieving information superiority and undermining enemy command and control through psychological means as much as technical means. In practice, the Kremlin blends military intelligence and political instruments seamlessly in its information confrontation operations. Oh, brother, this is long. Okay, so Russia's cognitive warfare activities are orchestrated by a combination of state organs and proxy actors. I think we're gonna go into auction mode for a little bit, folks, because I'm only through like 17 pages and we have 17 more, and I'm not gonna make it. So my apologies in advance, but some of you may find this entertaining. The Russian armed forces have dedicated units for electronic warfare and psychological operations. For instance, the GRU, military intelligence, reportedly oversees psychological warfare troops. The FSB and SVR, domestic and foreign intelligence, also play roles in influence campaigns, often running networks of agents and collaborators abroad to plant stories or support friendly media. However, much of Russia's cognitive warfare is outsourced or laundered through ostensibly private entities, oligarch-funded media outlets like RT Sputnik, the Internet Research Agency, which is a troll farm tied to Yevgeny Prigozhin, and a vast network of sympathetic NGOs or fringe political groups in other countries. The Institute for the Study of War describes Russia's approach as multimodal, employing every available channel of information to shape perceptions. This includes not just social media, but conferences, diplomatic channels, international organizations, and influential individuals. So think tanks, academics, ex-officials paid to echo Kremlin talking points. For example, Russia hosts events like the Valdai Discussion Club or uses platforms like the UN to propagate its narratives, often highlighting divisions in Western societies or portraying Russia as defender of a multipolar order. Even cultural and religious ties are leveraged. The Russian Orthodox Church and patriot organizations serve conduits of soft influence in Eastern Europe. In essence, there is a whole of government and whole of society mobilization for cognitive effect. In wartime, the Russian military has integrated information confrontation with kinetic operations during the conflict in Syria, where Russia intervened in 2015. Russia Infowatch targeted both local Syrian population to demoralize rebels and bolster Assad's legitimacy, and international audiences to portray Russia as successfully fighting ISIS when the reality strikes often hit other rebels. Similarly, in Ukraine, Russia's state media and bots have consistently worked to sap Ukrainian resolve and Western unity, even as tanks and missiles do their work on the ground. The airwaves and internet carry out the parallel assault on will and perception. Russia's use of cognitive warfare has been most vividly demonstrated in its operations against neighboring countries in the West. In the past decade, a landmark case was the 2014 annexation of Crimea, leading up to a largely bloodless takeover. Russian operatives flooded Crimea media with narratives of threats to Russian speakers, framed the Kiev government post-Euromaidan as fascist, and skillfully used local proxy. Well, it was fascist. It literally was. Again, Banderites. And skillfully used proxies to stage popular calls for secession. This information onslaught confused and paralyzed opposition. By the time little green men, unmarked Russian soldiers appeared, much of the population was already cognitively primed to accept or even welcome Russian control. Concurrently, Russia jammed Ukrainian communications and spread rumors to sow chaos among Ukrainian forces, a classic integration of electronic and psychological tactics. In the Donbass conflict in eastern Ukraine from 2014 to present, Russian propaganda painted Ukrainian authorities as genocidal Nazis, targeting ethnic Russians, galvanizing local separatists, and muddling international responses. A later globally resonant operation was the interference in U.S. and European elections 2016 to 2018. As documented by the Mueller report, Russian agencies conducted a multifaceted influence campaign in 2016 that included hacking and leaking Democratic Party emails, a cyber operation with cognitive goals, and orchestrating social media influence via fake U.S. persona accounts that reach tens of millions of users. These efforts aim to exacerbate divisions in American society and reduce trust in the electoral process itself. Similar tactics were used in the UK's 2016 Brexit referendum, where Russian bots amplify polarizing content around immigration and nationalism in various European elections where Kremlin-linked disinformation favored far-right or anti-EU candidates. Another sphere is military exercises and nuclear brinksmanship as information tools. Russia often conducts large snap military drills, for instance, the Sapad exercises, not only for training but to intimidate neighbors and send a message to NATO, psychological signaling of its capability and will. During such exercises, Russian media will accompany the saber rattling with commentary emphasizing the West's weakness or lack of resolve, aiming to erode the adversary's will to act. The Kremlin has also mastered the use of strategic ambiguity, obfuscating whether its fighters in Ukraine are regular troops or volunteers, which keeps opponents cognitively off balance. In recent analysis of the Ukraine war 2022 onward, experts note that Russia's disinformation narratives did not achieve all their objectives. For instance, its attempt to justify the invasion internationally largely failed. However, internally, the Russian state's propaganda has been effective at maintaining a base level of public support by controlling the narrative, claiming Russia is fighting Nazis and NATO aggression. Well, it is in both. Let's move on. Again, not a fan of Russia, but let's be objective here. And externally, Russia influence operations have worked in some regions. In parts of Africa and Asia, Russian narratives about Western neocolonialism and blaming sanctions, not Moscow's invasion, for food insecurity have gained traction. These illustrate Russia's adaptability and cognitive warfare when facing a strong pushback in one theater. In Europe, it shifts focus to other audiences that might be more receptive. The Russian cognitive warfare doctrine effectively creates a gray zone of conflict where Russia can pursue strategic goals without triggering full military retaliation from adversaries. By operating below the threshold of overt war through election meddling, social discord, cyber subversion, Russia exploits the West's peacetime rules and hesitancy to respond forcibly. The scholars note this leads to an asymmetric scenario. One side, the West, believes itself at peace, while the other, Russia, is actively waging conflict by non-military means. Over time, these cognitive attacks accumulate strategic effect. They can weaken enemy alliances, for instance, sowing discord in NATO or between NATO and the EU, creating openings for Russian geopolitical moves, like a divided U.S. polity might be more isolationist, and bolster Russia's global position by undermining the appeal of liberal democracy. However, Russia's heavily reliance on cognitive warfare also has limitations. It often fuels backlash as Western states become more alert and resilient. It doesn't always translate into decisive gains. For instance, it could not prevent the expansion of NATO to Finland and Sweden despite years of propaganda against it. Additionally, Russia's approach sometimes undermines its own credibility. Constant lying and brazen disinfo can lead neutral parties to discount Russian claims. In conclusion, Russia is probably the quintessential case of a state leveraging cognitive warfare as a primary instrument of power. As a doctrine of cognitive confrontation, uses a diverse toolkit from hacking to propaganda to physical demonstrations and aims squarely at the adversary's will and decision-making processes. Its successes and failures provide valuable lessons on the effectiveness and limits of cognitive warfare in the modern era. All right, let's see. Oh, man. This stuff is going to make me blind. All right, now moving on to China. Doctrine and philosophy. China's approach to cognitive warfare is deeply embedded in its concepts of political warfare and strategy. A key framework is the three warfares, which is Sanjian, public opinion of warfare, psychological warfare, and legal warfare, often adopted by the Chinese Communist Party, the People's Liberation Army since 2003. These three components are aimed at controlling the narrative, public opinion, undermining enemy morale, psychological, and using law as a tool to constrain opponents, legal, all without direct combat. In recent years, Chinese military thinkers have gone further by formulating the idea of cognitive domain operations. This concept represents an evolution of traditional psychological warfare for the information age. It posits that influencing an adversary's cognitive functions from peacetime public sentiment to wartime decision-making is essential to achieving mind superiority over the opponent. The PLA strategy envisions cognitive domain operations as the next frontier of warfare, extending conflict into the realm of thoughts, values, and beliefs. Notably, Chinese theorists explicitly link this to the ancient stratagems of Sun Tzu, prioritizing victory without battle by breaking the enemy's resistance via influence or on their will. Chinese writings frequently cite Sun Tzu's maxim that the highest excellence is to subdue the enemy without fighting, now updated with high-tech means. China's Chinese defense publications have observed that modern conflict will not be wars of attrition, but wars of cognition. PLA sees the U.S. emphasis on network-centric warfare and the cognitive aspects of command, the OODA loop, etc., and has sought to systematically address these points. Beijing's perspective is also influenced by its perception of Western cognitive warfare threats. CCP leaders accused the U.S. of using social media to stoke the Arab Spring color revolutions, which it did, believing that America already engages in cognitive warfare against authoritarian regimes. This has led China to bolster defenses against such tactics like censorship, the Great Firewall, to keep Western influence out and to justify its own development of offensive cognitive tools as a countermeasure and power projection. Okay. China's cognitive warfare efforts are broad and involve military, civilian, and party organs. Within the PLA, the Strategic Support Force, SSF, established in 2015, centralizes information warfare capabilities, including cyber operations, electronic warfare, and psychological warfare units. Under SSF or related departments, there are likely specialized groups focusing on influence operations, especially targeting Taiwan and other key audiences. One unit is Base 311, also called the Public Opinion Warfare Base, in Fuzhou, Fujian, reportedly dedicated to psychological operations against Japan, including propaganda, broadcast, leaflet drops, and social media campaigns aimed at undermining Taiwanese morale. The PLA's political work department also plays a role in shaping narratives and propaganda as part of political warfare. It's worth noting that in Chinese doctrine, the line between peacetime and wartime tasks is blurred. The United Front Work Department, UFWD, of the CCP, which operates globally to influence overseas Chinese communities and foreign elites, can be seen as part of China's cognitive warfare apparatus in peacetime competitions. State media outlets, CGTN, Xinhua, and ostensibly independent think tanks or academic institutes serve as vehicles for Chinese narratives abroad. More recently, China has developed vast Facebook, Twitter armies of fake or coordinated accounts, some run by bot networks, some by nationalist volunteers or contractors, to engage in online discourse globally, akin to Russia's troll farms, but often with a more positive spin, promoting China's image, or to drown out criticisms as seen in the flood of pro-China posts whenever there's negative news like Xinjiang human rights issues. Chinese tech giants and surveillance capabilities provide another asset, huge data sets and AI expertise. Chinese researchers advocate in integrating big data analytics and AI to analyze sentiment and tailor influence. For example, using sentiment analysis on target population social media to identify moments of vulnerability or trending concerns, then pushing content to exploit those. They also invest in the defensive side. Great effort is made to inoculate China's domestic population against cognitive influence through censorship, patriotic education, and narrative control in schools and media. This means China enters cognitive warfare contests with a relatively protected home front, while adversaries' populations are open terrain. A significant testbed and ongoing theater for China's cognitive warfare is Taiwan. China routinely employs cognitive tactics to sway Taiwan's public and erode their willingness to resist unification. This has included spreading disinformation in Taiwanese elections. So false stories about candidates or fomenting distrust in the U.S. as an unreliable ally, orchestrating social media campaigns to exacerbate divides in Taiwan society, for instance, disputes over identity or energy policy, and even direct texting of psychological warfare messages to Taiwanese citizens during military drills. This happened during PLA exercises in 2022. Many Taiwanese received anonymous SMS messages urging them to surrender or warning of impending conflict, likely from Chinese sources. Another case was the Hong Kong 2019 protest. Chinese state media and an army of online accounts pushed narratives painting protesters as violent pawns of Western instigators in an attempt to sway Hong Kong public opinion and international views. Simultaneously, Chinese propaganda flooded mainstream media to shape the domestic perception of cognitive control inwardly to justify any crackdowns. These efforts met with mixed success. Hong Kong locals largely didn't buy the CCP narrative, but mainland Chinese were overwhelmingly convinced that the protests were illegitimate. Globally, China has stepped up cognitive campaigns in the context of U.S.-China strategic rivalry. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic. Beyond spreading disinfo about the virus origin, China launched a so-called wolf warrior diplomacy on social media. Chinese diplomats on Twitter became very aggressive, pushing conspiracy narratives and attacking Western policies. This was a novel tactic, effectively turning official envoys into cognitive warriors in the information space. In the South China Sea dispute, China uses legal and public opinion warfare. It cites historical documents to legally justify its claims, legal warfare, and simultaneously shapes regional public opinion by controlling narratives. So, for instance, portraying U.S. freedom of navigation operations as hegemonic meddling. Chinese information operations also follow and amplify Russian disinformation at times, as noted by NATO researchers who found convergence in Russian and Chinese narratives about Western issues. For example, both promoting content about NATO expansion or about failures of Western democracy. This suggests a degree of opportunistic cooperation and cognitive campaigns against common targets. Additionally, China has begun showcasing cognitive warfare elements in its military exercises and doctrine. PLA articles discuss using media, culture, and psychology as weapons to influence adversaries' values and even alter their ideology. One PLA theorist, Senior Colonel Zhang Huafeng, outlined tactics such as perception manipulation, cutting off historical memory, changing thinking paradigms, and deconstructing symbols like national identity to achieve mind dominance. These ideas were not just theoretical. Aspects can be seen in how China approaches regions like Tibet or Xinjiang, rewriting historical narratives, re-educating populations, and how it might approach adversaries in a conflict scenario. For instance, attempting to confuse an enemy's understanding of friend or foe or undermine their belief in their cause. For China, cognitive warfare serves both its defensive imperative, protecting CCP from subversion, and its offensive ambitions like achieving regional dominance and global influence. In strategic competition with the U.S., Chinese analysts often argue that the narrative battle is crucial to frame China's rise as beneficial and the U.S. is declining and counterproductive. They see cognitive warfare as a way to win support in the global South, to reduce international resistance to China's moves, like reunification with Taiwan or expansion of the Belt and Road Initiative, and to possibly fracture U.S. alliances by exploiting differences. For instance, targeting European public opinion to be more neutral between U.S. and China. A striking difference from Russia is that Chinese cognitive operations often avoid crude falsehoods or easily debunked fakes. Instead, they prefer selective truth, emphasizing certain facts favorable to them, and or using sophisticated doubt casting. For instance, rather than claiming something patently false, Chinese outlets might highlight genuine dissenting voices in the West, amplifying a fringe American blogger who opposes U.S. foreign policy, giving it more weight. This more subtle approach can be quite effective, though China has engaged in outright disinformation too when needed. So, for instance, claiming no Uyghur abuse despite mountains of evidence. In summary, China's cognitive warfare capability is characterized by long-term systematic campaigns that integrate with its economic and diplomatic efforts a whole-of-nation strategy. It is rooted in an ideological view that controlling perception is key to victory. PLA's development of a formal cognitive domain concept indicates that China is taking this form of conflict as seriously as other domains, and given China's vast resources, including cutting-edge tech and the world's largest social media population domestically, its foray into cognitive warfare will significantly shape global information dynamics. That said, China must tread carefully. Heavy-handed propaganda can backfire, and efforts that are too transparent can breed distrust, as happened at times with wolf warrior diplomacy, causing pushback in target countries. The effectiveness of China's cognitive warfare will ultimately be judged by whether it can achieve its aims, for instance, deterring Taiwan's resolve or winning global narrative support without provoking a stronger counter coalition. All right, I'm not going to go into... There's a whole section on compare and contrast. I'm just going to skip it. Because it's way too much. And I'm just going to go straight to the conclusion, people, because I think that's enough. I think that's enough, and we only have 21 minutes left. Cognitive warfare has emerged as a critical frontier of modern conflict, evolving out of historical practices of propaganda and psychological operations into a sophisticated form of warfare that targets the mind as much as the body. This comprehensive analysis has traced its development from the mass persuasion campaigns of the world wars and the ideological battles of the Cold War to today's high-tech information operations, leveraging cyberspace, social media, and AI. We have examined how current tactics from disinformation blitzes and cyber subversions to micro-targeted propaganda are being deployed to shape perceptions, manipulate decision-making, and erode the will of target populations. Looking to the future, the integration of deepfakes, neurotechnology, and autonomous systems stands to further amplify both the reach and the dangers of cognitive warfare, making the task of discerning truth and protecting mental sovereignty ever more challenging. Through case studies of the United States, Russia, and China, we see contrasting doctrines and methods in play. Russia has embraced cognitive warfare as a core component of its hybrid approach, routinely using deception and influence to compensate for conventional weaknesses, while China pursues a more encompassing strategy of cognitive domain operations tied to its long-term national rejuvenation goals. The United States, a relative latecomer in formally recognizing this battle phase, that's bullshit, anyway, is rapidly adapting, driven by the clear imperative to not cede the cognitive high ground to authoritarian competitors. A comparative analysis reveals that while all major powers recognize the importance of this domain, their organizational structures, threshold of ethics, and integration with overall strategy differ markedly. Democracies face the particular tension of defending against cognitive attacks in ways and uphold their values of free speech and truth, whereas autocracies exploit the openness of societies while insulating their own. In conclusion, cognitive warfare is not an entirely new phenomenon, but its scale, speed, and impact in the digital age are unprecedented. It demands a rethinking of security paradigms where protecting the integrity of information and the minds of the populace becomes as important as defending physical borders. The major powers are already deeply engaged in this context, as demonstrated by their doctrines and actions. The international community, scholars, and policymakers will need to grapple with this reality, how to guard against relentless assaults on truth and reason, how to deter adversaries from crossing lines that could lead to chaos or war, and how to possibly carve out red lines and norms to keep competition within bounds. History suggests that whenever a new mode of warfare arises, it takes time and often painful experience to adapt. In the case of cognitive warfare, adaptation is ongoing with the hope that through vigilance, cooperation among like-minded nations, and perhaps the codification of some ethical standards, the worst outcomes can be averted. Ultimately, maintaining an informed, critical, yet open society may be the best defense, as the adage goes, the price of freedom. Now, as true in the informational realm as it has always been in the physical. By understanding the dynamics of cognitive warfare outlined in this podcast, policymakers and citizens alike can be better prepared to navigate the safeguards of cognitive battles of today and tomorrow. Good Lord. All right. That was painful. There were entire blocks of paragraphs that were just like the entire page. Like it was just, and I cut out a third of it because I just couldn't handle it. It was just too long. I hope it was interesting for you though. It was a slog for me. It's just too much. I can't even find where I left off. There we go. Okay. Have I interviewed Nathaniel Gillis? Have I interviewed Nathaniel Gillis? Many times. I probably have 10 interviews. There's actually, if you go to the playlist section, there's a playlist with all of my interviews with Nathaniel Gillis. So I probably have 10 to 20 hours of interviews with him. So yeah, I've interviewed him a lot. Okay. Oh, I thought you were like, oh my God, I kept, okay. Ollie Demogard. No. Tell me more about this guy. Or her. I don't know. I have not. Yeah, I think I was laughing at your next comment. That's just yeah, like I have my interview with Theranos. Let's see. It says David came to the Phoenix MUFON several years ago and came to the Skywatch. That was when he was still investigating Bigfoot. The guy that did the forensic drawing was so accurate. Okay, so Charles Hughes, he has a very interesting channel regarding this stuff. He'll blow many away with what he unveils. Intrepid soul saying. Yeah, the internet definitely advanced it, Questmaster. You heard a cat. I don't have a cat, but I have kids that are a lot louder than cats. Okay, so Maggie Smith is saying, I'm addicted to We Are All Energy channel. Okay. I interviewed Olaf Phillips. I think I have 2 interviews of Olaf Phillips, but I'll look at Ollie. Okay. No, Chase Hughes book, Tongue, A Cognitive Hazard. I have not. Funny to be watching this while the manufactured Arctic blast is blamed on climate change. I know. I was yawning a lot. You should try doing the wiggle dance. I don't know what the wiggle dance is. It's a custom GPT that I made. Try talking to it about your life situation. Huh. Is there going to be a chapter on 20? No, actually, we didn't talk about that at all, because that was basically a U.S. that was the U.S. using all this cognitive warfare against its own population. So, Intrepid Soul saying the Great Awakening is partly about how we are controlled and manipulated, amongst other things. That's one reason things seem so agitated lately. People are waking up. Yeah, people are waking up. So Solite US Expat said, I was a bit surprised that Kurt Metzger watches a lot of your shows. I wonder how often he is on the live show. That should have made you feel really good on all the energy you put. Yeah, I did. It did. Yeah, I also have to be very careful. Like, because it could end up on a much broader tableau if I say kind of the wrong thing, and it could be like Sean Patrick Hazlett said, and it could be said on like in bigger venues, let's say. Yep, you're right, Intrepid Soul. We're not buying that shit anymore. Nobody's buying that narrative. Yep, fake news. So Maggie Smith saying humans have huge emotional bodies, negative entities outside of us use those that are happy to do their bidding, they perceive. Yeah, could be. Let's see. Yeah, AI is telling on itself, but I think I'm catching it. Yeah, they always blame Russia because we have to have a villain to rile against, so we can. Yeah, I think the right villain is the elite, is like the leaders who are in charge of our country. I think those are the appropriate villains right now. Like both political parties. The tell is they haven't released the Epstein list. They're all on it. They're all complicit. They're the villains. Okay. Yeah, that son of a bitch. I'm not going to say his name, but you all, Thank you, Maggie. Okay. Yeah, they kind of do. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce seem to be a kind of a Department of War operation. Okay. Yeah, I get lots of weird information that way too. Sorry, I'm just going through pretty quickly, folks, because I have like 11 minutes yet left. So, yeah, that's a great point, Intrepid Soul. Does anyone out there really believe that the voices and conversations in your head are all yours and you're alone? Yeah, like where are those voices coming? Are they coming from you? Are they coming from outside you? Who knows? Do not use the Lord's name in vain. Did I just use it in vain? I hope not. Sean, kids will be kids. Go easy. A lot of collectives. No, they're not being bad. They're just being loud. Like that's. Sorry. Yeah, I shouldn't have said that. Okay, I guess I did say that. I'm sorry. Yeah, and I'm not being sarcastic. I'm sorry I said that. I shouldn't have said that. I realize some people would find much offense to that. Thank you, Writers DG. Okay. All right, so Intrepid Souls, Edgar Casey, Neville Goddard, Ernest Holmes, and others for years have told us how to live a better existence, how to get in touch with the creator of God, and how to get beyond this crap in our heads. Agreed. Yeah. So in the aforementioned book, so Moldegard is saying, in the aforementioned book, Chase explores the idea that language is a virus and how it controls the thing we call thought. Yeah, that's why it's called, when you spell something, like I spell, it's literally the word spell. Let's see. It's electrical carpet. You think Kurt Metzblurp is Blurple Kerple? Yes. Yes. All right. Yep. Language, the virus was released at the Tower of Babel. Oh boy. So Sally Forth Alone says Facebook deleted my dating profile like immediately because of my photo. This one. Without giving me time to change it. Yeah, I see bots and trolls all over. They can do better. They don't want to. No, they don't. They're terrible. Ah. Zoological Carpet said reading Wittgenstein showed me my prison. Interesting. I have not read Wittgenstein, but I probably should. Intrepid Soul said, I quit watching the news a long time ago because all BS. They tell us what they want us to believe, not the truth. 100%. 100%. MK Ultra, that's cognitive warfare. Yep. To put some blankets or something to absorb the sound from the kids. Yeah, it was driving me crazy, and I didn't know if you all heard it, but clearly you did. Yeah, definitely watch Jerry Marzinski. Kerp is into that too. He thinks it's intriguing. Yeah, Maggie, if you've worked with paranoid schizophrenics, you should watch. I've interviewed Jerry Marzinski like 3 times. So just like other guests, he has his own playlist on this channel. I highly encourage you to watch it because Marzinski worked with paranoid schizophrenics for like 40 years. Okay. Oops. Yeah. Again, he was a psychotherapist, I think, or analyst. I can't remember which one. Like they're different, but he worked with paranoid schizophrenics for like 40 years, and I have just look at his name on my playlist. There's a whole playlist where I have like my interviews with him. Yeah, thank you, Miss. Yeah, that's actually a good point. Thank you, Miss Tessa Marie. Remember to hit the like button, everyone. Where were we? Oh, for Christ's sake. I lost my place. It's telling me to hide the current comment, but I can't really do that if I can find it. Oh, come on. Where is this? All right, I found it. Good Lord. There's a lot of comments, so I'm just going to go very, very fast. Yeah, I interviewed him twice on pre-recorded interviews, and then I did a live stream with him once. And please forgive me for like moving too fast and not reading everyone's comment. I'm going to try to show everyone's comment, but oh, what's this? Yeah, that. So Miss Tessa Marie says they're just going to drop USBs over some country with disinformation in it. Like anyone is going to put some random USB they found on the ground on the computer. Uh, you'd be surprised. Hackers will sometimes drop them in parking lots in front of outside major tech companies, and some jackass will put it into his computer, and that's how they'll infect corporate systems with with malware. So people do pick them up and use them like idiots. Anyway. All right, again, I'm running out of time. I got like 3 minutes left, so oops. No, I don't have a trading card. Those were, remember in the Iraq War, they were trying to find like the head of the all the leaders of the Iraqi military and Saddam and all that stuff. And they had like a 52 deck. That's that deck. Yeah, well, here it is again. So you have like Saddam Hussein and all that stuff. So it's still in the package. Yeah, that's a real deck. But I bought. You could buy it at a military installation. I bought it in California. So yeah, but I have it. I absolutely have it. I'm too old to go back in the military. Way too old. Spiritual Ascension asks Sean, would you ever go back to the military? Too old. I mean, they made me a general, sure, but they wouldn't do that. They would just throw me back in as a captain, which is the rank I had when I left. Oh, Moldegard, you were born 2 days after me. Oh, I guess I was too. I didn't even put that together. Yes, I guess I was part of Valentine's Day. Was it really? I'm not surprised. Political power grows from the barrel of the gun. Who was that? Mao? I can't remember. Whew. I don't know, actually. I'm sure you could look it up, though. What's the MOS signifier for the Army's cognitive warfare? It's probably a 35 something, I'm guessing. Yeah, I did a whole interview with Mark Stavish on egregores. In fact, I'm reading his book right now. It's a good book. It's well written. It's a very well written book. I highly encourage you to get it. It's actually very accessible. You don't have to like. It's just good. It's a really really good book. Yep. Yes, you can. It's also in Chaos Magic. It's also in like Liber Null. You don't want to do that though. You know, there's like enchantment magic and stuff like that you can do without bringing in external entities. I don't recommend communing with like non-human entities. You just don't know what you're dealing with. Interesting. I like Benabel Wayne's book on the I Ching or I Ching. I don't know how to pronounce it. Exhausted. Thank you, Zane Ivy. Oh, read the red book next. Yeah. I'll add another one. I know a person who was friends with Philip K. Dick. His name's Tim Powers. So I'm friendly with him, right? I've interviewed him on this show, but I think we did an interview. We did a whole interview on Philip K. Dick, and Philip K. Dick legit used the I Ching. And when it gave him an answer he didn't like, he would make the I Ching sleep outside. True story. True story. So just think about that. I am literally 1 degree of separation from Philip K. Dick. That's how weird my life is. I am directly connected to the current ambassador to Denmark. He was in my fraternity in college. That's also weird. Oops. Sounds like Mind Wars by Michael Aquino, Psychological Warfare. Yeah, probably. Oh yeah, Gurdjieff. That's another weird one. Nice. Well, thank them for their service, Jacob. I don't know if you've watched the channel for very long, but I was in. Well, yeah, it's obviously been established already that I was an Army officer. Yeah, I appreciate you. Appreciate you, Jacob. But they're all coming from Kerp, I think. A lot of them are coming from Kerp. So we can all thank Kerp for that. Hey, welcome, abundantly empowered. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is not a professional opera. Today was not. I didn't like the topic today. I didn't think it was that great, and I struggled through it. So this is not indicative. So please forgive me. I hope I didn't disappoint you. The book Tongue. Oh boy. Yeah. Well, Japan won't fight for Taiwan, but we sure will. Yes, we're all in cahoots with you, Moldegard. So I do one of these every Saturday night, 2 hours. This is on radio. Just to be clear, the reason it's called Through a Glass Darkly Radio is it's on a radio station in New Orleans. So like this is also on the radio. Anyway, but yeah, religiously every Saturday night. Well, yeah, he wouldn't be able to. Moldegard wouldn't be able to comment if he wasn't subbed. So, oh, I don't know. That's a weird comment. I don't know. Yeah, every Saturday night, same time. Like hell or high water, it always happens. So, I think I once had to show like a rerun, but that's because the one that I had planned and uploaded failed. So, but hey, SNX Radio, good to see you. I think we did, Mark. I think we did listen to it. I can't remember. You haven't seen Spider Bite on? I don't think I've seen Spider Bite tonight. Huh. Am I the only level earther here? I don't know what that means. You might be, you might not be. You'd be surprised. Oh my god, it's like seven. I'm like 7 minutes over. Ugh. I really apologize for like rapidly cycling through all these. Oh boy, I don't. Let's skip that one. Yeah, thank you, Spiritual Ascension, for explaining that. But oh my lord, thank you for all your comments. I'm so slow at getting through this stuff. Yes, group hug, absolutely. Thank you, Oracle Ralphi. Yeah, but national security, yeah, exactly. It's just the people in power don't want to lose their security. That's what it's about. Because if we found out what they really did, we would literally tear them apart. Ugh. noises in your background are the sounds of a rich man. Thank you, Discog. I appreciate that. Well, I wouldn't say rich, but I would say, why is the word escaping me? Why am I struggling with this? Of a blessed man. Not blessed as on like some religious figure, but like I should be thankful for what I have. Hey, yeah, good. Thank you for coming. I all I had to do was just let Kurt go. Like that's, and then from time to time, just like you say something provocative to get him to go off on something else or to bring, Merp love back. So, yeah, Kurt really did me a solid. Like I really appreciate him for that. He's and then he was like effusively trying to like say how much he liked my channel, and I just like talked right over him. Like I was just like I was a jerk, and I didn't even realize I was a jerk. So yeah, the fact that he's doing whatever he could to like. I really I liked him before, but when I actually got to know him, like what you see is like that's him. That is literally him, and I really, really, really enjoyed that. Like he can come on here anytime he wants. I'm not going to ask him, right? Because I don't want him to feel obligated, but he is welcome here anytime he wants. I think he's a good dude, good, solid. I think Mishlov's weird about that. Like I've heard that he like. I shouldn't spread rumors because I don't know if it's true because I haven't asked, but I would love to interview Mishlov. I think it would be epic if Kurt interviewed Mishlov. I mean, I don't even know how that would go. But I think Mishlov is going to become even more popular because of that impression. Because people love it so much. I guarantee the next time that Kurt goes on Rogan, he will have to like precipitate, hey, play this guy. Like watch this interview between Mishlov and Whitley. And then he'll establish Mishlov for the audience and then cue the impression. And then like Mishlov will be a legend after that. Not the best way, but like I'm gonna like the next time I talk to Kurt, like I will definitely recommend something like that. Exactly. That I think you just joined Abundantly Empowered, but like, or not just joined, but like, oh, maybe you wrote that when I said that. I don't know. Yeah, I did, but I slowed down. I was just like, whew. Yeah, yeah. Philip K. Dick was definitely a genius, a mad one, but yeah, definitely. I actually don't think Aquino was an evil guy. I think he was a misunderstood guy, but I think he was an interesting guy. But I don't know if he was. I don't know if he was evil. But again, I haven't done a lot of research on it. But the research I have done on him doesn't really. A lot of the persona he cultivated seemed evil, but he seemed like a pretty interesting guy. Oh, what the inside info on Greenland? I don't know if I should do this. Sure, why not? Why not? Hold on, give me a second. I mean, it is pseudo public. Just give me a moment. Oh, for Christ's sake. Because I cleared my cache today, I have to deal with all this. Like, are you sure you're who you say you are? Oh, he's got a new thing. Okay. How do we want to do this? You all want insider stuff. It's not really, it's on the internet, so sort of. How do I share this? Share screen. All right, can you all see that? Okay, so you can see this. So he's posting some photos. I think this was when he was ambassador to Sweden in the last Trump administration, so it's not that relevant. I don't want to show the stuff on the left. But here's him visiting Nuuk, Greenland in December. Just returned from a fantastic first trip. Here, let's to Greenland. Highlights including meeting Prime Minister Nielsen, Foreign Minister Motzfeldt, and other minister representatives from the Greenlandic and Danish governments. Productive set of diplomatic engagements with these counterparts on foreign policy and defense, fishing, mining, education, tournament, enjoying Greenland's absolute stunning natural beauty. I can't wait to go back. Does this sound like a country that's about to start a war? We don't care about that. Nuuk, Greenland provided the ultimate welcome. Okay, you got that. Okay, this is in Copenhagen. My first few weeks on the job have been extremely busy but rewarding. Amongst my first meetings included productive engagements with Prime Minister Frederiksson, Foreign Minister Løkke Rasmussen, Defense Minister Poulsen, and Novo Nordisk, CEO, blah, blah, blah. Grateful. Okay, so that's, anyway. I think you all get the point. All the shit that you're hearing in the media is bullshit. So that sounded pretty diplomatic to me. Anyway, so that's as inside info you're going to get. Oh, nice. You met Duncan Trussell. I need to ask Kurt to make the connection. I just don't want to be too pushy. That's all. Okay. Yeah. So Oracle Profile says, Sean, we both know somebody who knows Joe Rogan. I know someone who knows Donald Trump. I do too, but I can't. I can't speak. I can't speak of that because, well, actually, Kenny, of course, knows Trump, but I know somebody else who's a little closer. Just through business stuff that I can't talk about. So. By the way, so is Nathaniel Gillis. He's in Ohio too. Yeah, it's supposed to be getting really cold. Actually, he was when I talked to him today. He was kind of bitching about it. UFO intros reposted the stream. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't. It seems like it's gonna. So Zane Ivy said, "I hear Greenland residents will likely be each $100,000 lump sum payment." I imagine it's going to be a diplomatic agreement of some sort. Hey, I appreciate that UFO intros. Tonight's work was not particularly great. but they can't always be your best. But I appreciate the sentiment. Hey, I appreciate that, Maggie. I am a blessed man. Kerfins, 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 Kerfins. Yeah. What I know about I don't know anything about Promise Software. Thank you, UFO intros. Appreciate it. I bet you Duncan Trussell is exactly like he is in the interviews, just like Kerp is, exactly the same. I don't know anything about the woman stuff about Aquino. I think you're talking about, but at the Presidio, that whole thing was like he wasn't even there when that stuff happened. It was just meant to smear his reputation. Huh. Promise Software. Interesting. Yeah, by the way, I can't, again, I haven't delved too deeply on Aquino, so it seems like, well, as original AI we have now. Is knowing Trump or Rogan personally supposed to be some kind of achievement? No, it's just, I wouldn't worry. I mean, Oracle of Relfi just made I don't think she meant anything positive or negative about it. Just an observation. That's all. No, he was absolutely at Presidio. It just there was an incident that he was um, blamed for that he just wasn't present when that event took place. But yeah, he absolutely was at the Presidio. I'm not saying he wasn't. Hey, Sirius, good to see you. Doesn't give a, yeah, I don't know anything about Operation Phoenix. Again, just in the brief research I did, he didn't strike me as like some horribly evil person. But again, I did a very cursory background on him. Okay. All right. Oh my God. We are like 22 minutes over. So we kind of have a good sense we can calm down on Greenland, I think. And by the way, I didn't mean to do like a weird flex of like, look at me, look at who I know. But it's just it's particularly relevant now, and I want people to just know that it's not as crazy as you think. Oh, my opinion of Carl Nell. I met him in person at one of the Seoul conferences, the first Seoul conference. And like me, we both majored in electrical engineering in college. He was at the University of Pennsylvania. I was at Stanford. I also majored in history, but we talked about that a lot, actually. Like, that's what we talked about. It was just when he found out that I was like former Army and had majored in electrical engineering, like he was talking, we were just talking about that. So he's a super nice guy. I think he is definitely like a key leader in the current disclosure narrative, but I think there's a lot of narrative control. And in fact, he showed us what the timeline looked like, right? So the stuff's still going to drag out to 2030, according to what he showed us. And it was posted on the internet a little bit. If you look at my background on the Seoul conference, I have like 2 videos on that Seoul conference. And I think one of them might have that in it. I can't remember. Like, it just flashes that timeline. So, but I think he's a good guy, but I think he also has a role he has to fulfill. And he was very nice to me. So let's see. Yeah, he's extremely intelligent. That's for sure. So was trained by an MK Ultra. He very well may have been. Let me guess. Bragg. Well, you're talking about Fort Bragg? Connected to, yeah, Operation Paperclip. Yeah, it's a done deal thing. Absolutely. Oh, why are you leaving, Uncle Ten? We're never going to get full disclosure. I've given up on the government. Like they lied to us about everything. So anyway, yeah. Okay. All right, everyone. You all have a fantastic night and rest of your weekend, and we will see you next week. Did I skip over flat? I didn't see any flat Earth concepts, or sorry, comments. I swear to God, I didn't see any flat Earth comments in what I'm seeing. So I wasn't. If it looked like I was skipping over them, I didn't intend to do that. Um, I don't believe the flat Earth stuff. I'll be frank about that, but I wouldn't skip comments about it. So, I saw Gleason's map quickly, but I didn't register. I think I posted it, right? Okay, look at the Gleason's map. You'll see how far Greenland extends into the Arctic Circle. Okay, I didn't know that was a flat Earth comment. All right. Well, good night, everyone. I will see you all next week. We have, I think, 2 Mark Stavish episodes coming up, or Stavish episodes coming up. Those are always good and informative, at least on the occult side. So, or Hermeticism and all that good stuff. So, I look forward to seeing you next week, and have a great weekend. Good night, and God bless.
You always you.